Hello, Gamesdos family and gaming enthusiasts! Today we're taking a close look at a legendary series that left its mark on an era, etched into our minds with its dark atmosphere, tragic hero, and of course,
that iconic bullet time mechanic,
Max Payne. This series, which exploded into the gaming world in the early 2000s, not only redefined the action genre, but also told us the epic story of how far a man can go when he has nothing left to lose. Get ready, because we're embarking once again on this painful journey from the snowy and gloomy streets of New York to the scorching heat of Brazil, all through the eyes of Max Payne. Let's go back to 2001. At that time, action games generally focused on more straightforward, linear conflicts. That is, until a small Finnish studio called Remedy Entertainment, led by Sam Lake, came up with something completely different. Before Max Payne, Remedy Entertainment had made a name for itself with the popular top-down racing and action game Death Rally, released in 1996. This small but successful game laid a solid foundation for Remedy's future projects and showcased the studio's potential. Max Payne wasn't just a game, it was an interactive Neo-Noir film. The game's most revolutionary feature was, of course, bullet time. Turning this concept, popularized by the Matrix film, into an interactive mechanic didn't just allow players to stylishly shoot enemies in slow motion, it also offered strategic depth to combat. Diving and rolling, slow motion shooting while airborne. These became Max Payne's signature moves. But Max Payne wasn't just about gameplay. The game's atmosphere, narrative, and story truly made it special. The perpetually snowy, crime-ridden, dark streets of New York, Max's internal monologues, as if pulled straight from a detective novel, whispered to us his state of mind, his pain, and his quest for revenge.
Drugs and contract killings from a sleazy hotel in a slum block of tenements. The NYPD was closing in. I could hear the sirens. Their wail was a crescendo. Lupino thought he could get us by taking Alex out and leaving me to take the fall for it. All he had gotten was my...
And, of course, that unique comic book panel storytelling. This was a cinematic and immersive experience we hadn't really seen before in the gaming world. Max Payne, a detective in the New York Police Department whose life was turned upside down when his family was murdered by drug addicts. The quest for revenge wasn't just about punishing the wicked, but also about confronting the pain within himself. Max wasn't just an action hero, he was also a suffering, vulnerable, and tragic character. It's truly admirable how Remedy, with a low budget and writer Sam Lake lending his own face to Max Payne, managed to achieve such a great and impactful work. When it launched, Max Payne captured the attention not only of players but also critics. It received scores above 9/10 from leading gaming sites of the era like IGN and GameSpot. Specifically, comments frequently highlighted how surprising it was to see a TPS game with such deep storytelling and emphasized the unique atmosphere and narrative of the game. The game's success also led to the release of a Max Payne GBA version in 2001. Despite the GBA's limited capabilities, this portable version managed to capture the spirit of the original game, allowing us to experience the bullet time mechanic even on a 2D platform. After the success of the first game, expectations were sky high. What would Remedy do under this pressure? Max Payne 2. The Fall of Max Payne, released in 2003, not only met expectations but elevated the series to the next level. Improved Bullet Time 2.0 offered more fluid and aesthetic combat, but the real leap came with the Havoc physics engine. Enemies reacting more realistically when shot, objects moving dynamically, added incredible depth to the game's combat feel. Every firefight felt like a ballet. The game's subtitle, The Fall of Max Payne, indicated that this time, the story was about more than just revenge. The trauma Max experienced was dragging him further down. But this time, his solitude was accompanied by a complex and dangerous figure, Mona Sachs. This game wasn't just an action game, it was also a film noir love story. The chemistry between Max and Mona, their impossible relationship, added a completely different layer of depth to the story. Remedy once again delighted fans with its attention to detail. Hidden television shows like Address Unknown, the details within the houses, and even the varying endings based on different difficulty levels were all elements that made Max Payne 2 unforgettable. An interesting detail, Max Payne 2, despite being critically acclaimed upon its release, didn't achieve the expected impact in sales charts of the time and quickly saw a decline. Reasons cited included the game's relatively short playtime of around 7 to 8 HRs on average and a marketing campaign that was weaker compared to the first game. However, this didn't prevent the game from gaining cult classic status over the years. Today, it is considered by many players and critics as one of the best games in the series. 9 long years after Max Payne 2, in 2012 came the third and final installment of the series. However, this time the helm wasn't with Remedy, but with Rockstar Games, the creators of legends like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. This change in developers and the long gap between games created significant curiosity and debate among fans. Rockstar Games spent a remarkably long period of 8 years developing Max Payne 3. During this arduous development process, the game changed hands among 3 different Rockstar studios. Initially, the Vancouver studio started the project, then the New England team took over, and finally, Rockstar Toronto completed the game. This explains why the development process was so lengthy and challenging. One of the most striking changes was the atmosphere. The shift from snowy, gloomy New York to sunny but equally corrupt and dangerous. São Paulo, Brazil, perfectly mirrored Max's state of mind. Max himself had changed, his head shaved, he was heavier, physically and mentally worn out. He was no longer the vengeful detective of old, but a tired man seeking peace in the twilight of his life, relying on alcohol and painkillers. Rockstar put its own stamp on the gameplay. The new cover system, animations made even more realistic by the Euphoria physics engine, and environmental interactions brought a modern touch to combat. While these innovations were seen by some fans as a departure from the series' roots, the dynamism Rockstar brought to the Max Payne universe was undeniable. The story revolved around a new trouble Max gets into while working as a bodyguard in Brazil. Was this final story of an older, more tired, and more worn-out Max a fitting farewell to his painful journey? While the answer to that question remains with the player, James McCaffrey's White Max Payne's voice actor performance brilliantly conveyed the character's final states. Rockstar's detailed research to create the Brazilian atmosphere and the music by the band Health amplified the game's dark and tense ambiance. The Max Payne series showed us, across 3 different games, different periods, different pains, and different battles of the same man. This journey from New York to Brazil was not just an action epic, but also a character study. Max Payne's legacy in video game history is undeniable. Popularizing the bullet time mechanic, its innovative approach to cinematic storytelling, and the creation of deep and unforgettable characters. All these have influenced many action games today. Max Payne was one of those rare series that made you feel like you were watching a movie, not just playing a game. Max Payne's influence wasn't limited to games alone. A Hollywood film was made in 2008. The movie, starring Mark Wahlberg as Max, wasn't particularly well received by gamers and earned low scores from critics, but it nonetheless demonstrated how significant an imprint the series left on popular culture and how it reached wide audiences. Furthermore, a development that re-excited fans years later occurred. In 2022, Remedy and Rockstar Games made a major joint announcement. He revealed that remake efforts for Max Payne 1 and 2 had begun, and the games would be recreated from the ground up with next-generation graphics. This news came as a big surprise for players who had longed for the series for years and heralded the revival of the Max Payne legend on next-gen platforms. So, what was your favorite Max Payne game? Do you think Max's story found the ending it deserved? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next Gamesdos video. Goodbye!